Kachisei-kana, also known as the slit-mouthed woman, is a scary Japanese urban legend about a disfigured Japanese woman who brandishes a large scissors and preys on children. She has an enormous slit mouth, which extends from ear to ear, and a horrible, permanent smile. The slit-mouthed woman walks the streets of Japan, wearing a surgical mask and hunting for children. If you cross her path, she will stop you and ask you a question. If you give her the wrong answer, there will be horrible consequences. Picture the scene. You are walking home from school and your path takes you down a deserted city street. Suddenly, you hear a faint noise coming from the shadows. You glance over and see a beautiful woman standing there. She has long black hair and is wearing a beige trench coat. A surgical mask covers the lower half of her face. In Japan, wearing a surgical mask is not uncommon during flu season to prevent spreading germs. She steps out of the shadows and blocks your path. "Am I beautiful?" she asks. Before you can answer, she tears off her mask, revealing a hideously deformed face. Her huge mouth is sliced from ear to ear and gapes open, revealing rows of sharp teeth and a big red, disgusting tongue twisting and twirling inside. "Am I beautiful now?" she screams. Terrified, you struggle to answer her. If you say no, she pulls out a huge pair of scissors and kills you immediately, chopping off your head. If you say yes, she takes her scissors and slices your mouth from ear to ear, making you look just like her. If you try to run away, she will hunt you down and kill you by slicing you in two. The only way to escape from Kachisei-kana is to give a non-committal answer. If you say you look average or you look normal, she will be confused, giving you just enough time to run away. There are many rumors about how Kachisei-kana got her horribly disfigured mouth. Some say that her slit mouth is a result of plastic surgery that went horribly wrong. Others say that she was injured in a terrible car crash. Some even believe she is an escaped mental patient who was so demented that she cut her own mouth apart. According to one legend, years ago in Japan, there lived a very beautiful woman who was extremely vain and self-absorbed. Her husband was a very jealous and brutal man, and he became convinced that she was cheating on him. In a fit of rage, he took a sword and slit her mouth from ear to ear, screaming, "Who will think you're beautiful now?" She became a vengeful spirit and began wandering the streets of Japan, wearing a surgical mask to hide her terrible scars. The slit-mouthed woman's reign of terror began in the spring and summer of 1979, when rumors began to spread throughout Japan about sightings of the Kachisei-kana hunting down children. The story spread like wildfire and actually created scares in many towns. Police increased their patrols, and schools set teachers to walk students home in groups. In 2004, South Korea was plagued by reports of a red-masked woman who was chasing children. In 2007, a coroner found some old records from the late 1970s about a woman who was chasing little children but was hit by a car and died shortly after. Her mouth was ripped from ear to ear. The USA has its own version of Kachisei-kana. There were rumors about a clown who appeared in public bathrooms and accosted children, asking, "Do you want death or a happy smile?" If they chose happy smile, he took out a knife and slit their mouths from ear to ear. Was a scary Japanese urban legend about a woman who was murdered by her husband and came back as a vengeful ghost. This story appeared in the movie The Grudge or Ruon in Japan. When Kayako was a young girl, her parents neglected her. She spent most of her time feeling depressed and lonely. She didn't have any friends, and the other children at school thought she was creepy and made fun of her. Kayako grew up and got married to a man named Taiko Seiki. She felt like he was the only person in the world who cared about her. They lived a happy life together, and she gave birth to a little boy named Toshio. One day, her husband was snooping around in their bedroom and found her diary. When he read it, he became convinced that she was cheating on him. When she came home from work and went upstairs, he was waiting for her, holding a knife. He attacked her, beating her and slashing her viciously right in front of their young son. Kayako tried to flee, but her husband chased her. He was almost out of his mind with rage. Covered with blood, she slipped and fell, breaking her ankle. Desperate to escape, she crawled down the stairs, but when she reached the front door, her husband grabbed her. He took her head in both his hands and twisted it around, breaking her neck. Kayako was still alive, but she was paralyzed. The only sound she could make was a hoarse death rattle. Her husband dragged her upstairs, put her in a black plastic bag and left her in the attic to die. Then he got their son and drowned him in the bathtub and stuffed his body in a closet because she died in such pain, anguish, and rage. Kayako came back as a vengeful ghost. She appeared to her husband and strangled him with her hair. He was found lying in the street, and the police thought he took his own life. Ever since then, Kayako's ghost haunts the house in which she died. They say that if you go into that house, you will hear Kayako's hoarse, choked death rattle. Then you will see her crawling down the stairs, covered in blood and rolling her broken neck around with a sickening cracking sound. Sadako Yamamura is the ghost girl from the Ring movies who appears in a cursed videotape. Her story was based on a real girl named Sadako, who was a psychic and lived in Japan in the early 1900s. Her psychic ability was that she was able to project words and images onto film. When Sadako was a young girl, she was very melancholy and depressed. She seldom spoke and never played with other children, spending all of her time alone. Sadako's mother was a psychic, and she conducted several experiments with a psychic researcher named Dr. Fukurai. When the doctor published the results of his experiments, other scientists accused Sadako's mother of being a fraud and said she faked her psychic abilities. Sadako's mother was so distraught by all the criticism that she committed suicide. Sadako was devastated by her mother's death and lived with her father on a remote island. As she grew older, she began to develop psychic powers of her own. When her father learned of her psychic powers, he brought her to Dr. Fukurai in Tokyo. The doctor forced Sadako to participate in many experiments that involved using her mind to make words and images appear on photographic film. In Japan, they call this nensha, which means thought photography or thoughtography. Sadako produced a number of these thotographs, and nobody could explain how it was done. Drive Fukurai wanted to publish another book, but remembering what had happened to her mother, Sadako refused. She told him she was going to leave and would never return. Nobody knows for sure what happened after that. Some people believe that the doctor murdered Sadako. They say he lured her out to the woods near the hospital and strangled her. Then he threw her body down a nearby well and sealed it with large rocks to keep her hidden forever. However, Sadako was not really dead. When she woke up, she was trapped in the well and couldn't get out. She attempted to escape by scaling the walls, but failed every time, breaking off her nails and fingertips in the process. The poor girl survived in the well for 7 days before she finally died with her heart full of hate. With her last breath, she vowed to have her revenge on the world of inexplicable images being projected onto a mysterious and marked videotape. Sadako appears in the videotape as a shadowy young woman dressed in a white gown. Her face is covered by long black hair. They say that if you watch the video, you will die in 7 days. The only way to avoid the curse is to make a copy of the videotape and give it to somebody else.